Tried so hard to see it. It took me so long to believe it. You choose someone like me to carry your victory. Perfection could never earn it. You give what we don't deserve. You take the broken things and raise them to glory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you won. I am who you say I am. Crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. Yeah. Now I can finally see it, teaching me how to receive it. So let all the striving cease. Whoa, this is my victory. You are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you won. I am who you say I am. Me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. You have conquered it all. Oh, you've won it all. You've won it all from me. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority, yes I do. Jesus has given me. Come on, declare it out. 'Cause when I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority. This we know, that Jesus has given me. When I lift my voice and shout, everyone comes crashing down. I have the authority. Jesus has given me. Jesus has given me. Victory in the name of Jesus. Master is. There's healing in the name of Jesus. There's a breaking of addiction in the name of Jesus. And when we lift up our voices and begin to shout, every stronghold, every high thing begins to come crashing down. When we call on the name of Jesus, come on, wherever you are right now, just begin to lift up his name. Lift up the name of the mighty counselor, the wonderful one, the name that is above every single name. Come on. When I lift my voice, when I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracle signs and wonders start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. Jesus has given me. When I lift my voice and shout, every wall comes crashing down. I have the authority Jesus has given me. Jesus has given me. When I open up my mouth, miracles start breaking out. I have the authority Jesus has given me. 'Cause you are my champion. Giants fall when you stand undefeated. Every battle you've won has got my name on it. I am who you say I am. You crown me with confidence. I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated. By the power of your name, I am seated in the heavenly place, undefeated, with the one who has conquered it all. You've conquered it all.
Hey boys and girls, it's me Bree, and I am so excited to join you on Destiny Kids today. You don't want to miss it. There's wacky facts, music, and maybe even a special guest. So I hope to see you real soon.
Genesis chapter 22 says, "After these things, God tested Abraham's faith and said to him, 'Abraham, take your only son Isaac, the son you love, and go to the land of Moriah. Kill him there and offer him a whole burnt offering on one of the mountains that I tell you about.'" Yeah, that's pretty radical, isn't it? And this is our time and our opportunity to love God and to bless him with our love and also through our giving. And I was thinking about this whole story of Abraham and Isaac, and of course we know how, especially as we're giving, because it's so difficult to let go of something that we need so desperately and that we work so hard to obtain. And of course, you know, we always feel like it's not enough, or we're tempted to feel that, is what I'm saying. And God asked Abraham to give. It was beyond money. It was his son. And when he raised and he brought his son to that mountain, and he raised that knife to slay his son, and he laid him tied and bound to, fire, to sacrifice him completely afterwards to God. The Bible says the angel of the Lord said, "Stop. Now I know." Of course, the angel of the Lord is Jesus. It's God. And you know what? God knew long before Abraham was tested what was going to happen because God knows everything. But to me, what this story is saying is proving is that, you know, it wasn't God that needed a revelation. It wasn't God that needed the knowledge. It wasn't God that needed his faith built up. It was Abraham who needed to go through this experience. And this is what happens to us in life as we go through challenging experiences and sacrifices. But what it does is, what God is doing, he's making us strong on the inside. He doesn't put us through, God doesn't put terrible things on us, but he does require our obedience. And he's making us better. Every step of faith we take, we get better and better and better. So as we're giving today, as we're offering God today our love and our sacrifice and our income, a portion of our income, of our increase, because we recognize that everything comes from him and we want to maintain that ourselves by saying, God, I'm not going to look to myself. I'm not looking to my job. I'm looking to you. I want to maintain my dependence on you. And as we exercise our faith and as we obey like Abraham did, God is causing our faith to grow stronger. He's causing us to grow stronger. He's causing us to become better. He's causing us to have mountain-moving faith. You see, God isn't a mean God. He's a good God, and he always wants to bless us and to make us just like himself. So let's release our faith today. Thank you so much, House of Destiny, for your faithfulness. Thank you so much. We want to thank you. And below the player, you see the link. You can click on the link, and there's various ways to give. But let's get lost in his love right now. Let's absolutely renew our dependency upon him. That's a good thing. And let's rejoice, because when we obey God, then there is a great reward on the other side. And that's exactly what happens in this story with Abraham. God gives him a beautiful ram to sacrifice in place of his son, and then God prospers him greatly. And he's not a respecter of person. If he did it for Abraham, he'll do it for you. God bless you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the House of Destiny. I'm just so honored to be joined by Christy Desfontaine, who she runs our Israel Update channel, if you didn't know already. And every Friday, you can go to israelupdate.org and see the Israel Update channel and what they have going on there, because she works with Doobie right on the ground in Israel, and we get our news straight from there.
And there's some crazy things going on in Israel right now.
Going on. So we wanted to just discuss a few things with you today and take some time, just Christy and I.
Yeah.
And I love our time together, and we love our time with you. We've had such a nice time of worship today, and so I think we're ready to jump into the Word. Now, Christy has blown my mind a little bit here, so I'm going to let Christy explain some of the things she was just her and I have been talking about.
Yeah. Donna and I have been speaking a little bit about this, and we're going to get into it. But before I do that, the scriptures are really clear. And in the book of 1 Chronicles 12:32, it says this: men of Issachar who understood the times and knew what Israel should do. Now, that little nugget there is just in the book of 1 Chronicles, speaking about the men of Issachar. Now, what does that tell us? How can we relate to the men of Issachar? If we go back now and jump back to Genesis 49, when Jacob, before he died, blessed his sons. This I've always found interesting. And this is in Genesis 49, verse 14. Issachar is a raw-boned donkey lying between two saddlebags. And that sounds strange. Issachar is a donkey, but here we're told in 1 Chronicles 12:32 that the sons of Issachar knew and understood the times that they were living in and knew what Israel should do. And we as Christians can look at that and go, we need to be like the sons of Issachar. We need to understand, why is Issachar called a donkey here when being blessed? A donkey was a beast of burden, and a donkey always bore somebody else's burdens, not their own.
Right.
As Christians right now, we have to be looking above our own burdens and looking to the burdens of the world.
That's exactly right.
That's what has to be going on. The book of Job speaks about it. It says, the groans of the dying rise from the city, and the souls of the wounded cry out for help, but nobody comes to their rescue. But we as Christians cannot afford to spend our time fighting with one another, fighting on Facebook, fighting wherever we fight. We have to be like the sons of Issachar, who when blessed by Jacob, it seems like a strange thing to say. Issachar is this. He basically says he's a donkey, but a donkey was always, it was a consistent beast of burden. Jesus rode in on a donkey. We see all these different times in scripture where a donkey took a prominent role. With Balaam, the donkey is what saw beyond what he could see. The donkey is actually what saved his life, because the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, and the angel actually said to Balaam, if it wasn't for your donkey, I would have killed you. Okay, so this donkey, it's a beast of burden, and the donkey doesn't wander around carrying all the stuff because it needs it.
No.
It carries the stuff around because the rider needs it.
Yes.
And so as the sons of Issachar, people that we need to be those people, the sons of Issachar, we need to be people that know and understand, and not only know what Israel needs to do, but know what we as the church need to do in these
important
times.
thing, yes.
Sorry, this was a little bit of an
Keep
introduction
going.
that I
No, this is
hadn't
good.
planned on. But now, Donna and I were speaking about this, okay? So everybody knows what's going on. There's all this stuff going on. Singing in church has been banned in California. It's chaos. And, we're looking at it going, okay, does a mask work? Doesn't a mask work? And this is the point that I guess we're kind of looking at. If you as a person, an individual, according to the Constitution of the United States, if you live in America, you have a certain amount of liberties, rights.
Yes.
You were speaking about that, about God-given versus man-given. You were speaking about that a couple of weeks ago. You have the right to choose whether you want to wear a mask or not want to wear a mask, whatever makes you comfortable. If you want to set social distance, you can. But whenever there's a government that comes in and starts to impose a law on you that restricts your liberties, there's a problem.
Yes.
And the reason that this is a problem is because right now we still have a president who is pro-liberty, pro-Israel, pro-God. But if that were removed and we had a different president and a different governing system and a different set of ideologies that were in place, that is when religious liberty could be taken away altogether. And so speaking about this mask situation, this is the first time, and I mean, I've read through the scriptures from cover to cover a number of times. I've done it twice this year already with this 30-day Bible shred thing that I do that I love, where you read Genesis to Revelation in 30 days, and I love it. I've done it twice. But I've read Revelation, and for those of you that have grown up in church, you go, Revelation, when it's time to read that, because it can be a little bit hectic. But this is the first time parts of this have become plausible to me, where I can see the path that we're on. Because right now it's a mask, but what happens if it moves and it no longer is, oh, you need to wear a mask? Now it becomes, in order to keep you safe, in order to be able to accurately read what your health is at. Now they're taking temperatures, which I understand, but now they're taking temperatures. But what if it becomes, we need to see whether or not you've got the antibodies. We need to see whether or not your health records are available. How could all of that be available in one place? A chip. Book of Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 says this. He also forced everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on his right hand or on his forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, which is the name of the beast or the number of his name. This calls for wisdom, and it continues. But what is it? We were speaking about this. What is the one unifying factor that could cause great and little, rich and poor, regardless of social standing, regardless of your monetary situation? What is the one thing that unites everybody and causes everybody to be prepared to do the same thing? Fear. Fear is the only thing that can do this. And so for the first time in my life, with everything going on in 2020, I see a plausible pathway from this mask situation going on. I see a plausible pathway to where this could become our reality very, very quickly.
Yes.
And it's the first time in my life I've ever seen this pathway where I go, it could happen in a couple of years. Because right now it's a mask, but already there's this whole thing about we need to be able to see what your health is like. They're already saying only cards, no cash. And if you or I want to go into Costco or Target or Walmart and we want to go buy our kids stuff or we want to buy ourselves things, I protest in my own way, and I bought a mask from Walmart that said, "We the people in defense of the Constitution of the United States." But I put that mask on and I walk in to buy what I need. But what happens, because it speaks here about unless you have this mark, you can't buy or sell.
And this is sort of a precursor to that, because if you don't wear your mask, you cannot buy or sell.
Currently.
This is how it appears to be going.
Yes.
Now, again, we're not telling anybody not to wear masks.
Not at all.
If it helps, it helps. And you'll find that everybody wants to be healthy. Nobody wants this disease spread around. And so people will willingly do that without you having to make it a law and impose it and shame them. You don't have to do that. I just watched video footage of people being issued citations over masks, but it wasn't their refusal to wear a mask. The one gentleman was on a telephone call and moved his mask down when he answered the phone and then put it back. And just from him doing that, they issued him a citation, and they weren't even police officers. These were plain clothes. I just watched this video this morning, and I thought, this is like how you're saying, now it's the mask. What is going to be next? We do hear these rumors of, for instance, with the vaccination. I'm hearing that this is a new kind of vaccination now.
Yes.
What is this new kind of vaccination? And it's so difficult to find information because we are being deceived on purpose. We are purposely being deceived and divided and distracted.
Yes.
And it all goes back to the corruption that's going on within the government.
Yes, it is.
A lot of faces that we don't know or see, people that we've never voted for, along with the ones that we have. And this corruption exists in both main parties.
Absolutely.
And I'm remembering my father prophesying about how there would be no more corruption in the White House. He's not talking about if someone says a bad word or something, not those kinds of sins. There is a very deep, dark, and evil thing happening here because you see all the statues coming down. You know, with some of these Confederate statues, I completely understand. If you want to go and protest it, go to your city, say we don't want the statue anymore, they can have it removed. I understand that. That's fine. Remove the statue. But what is happening, when you're watching and you're looking, especially through spiritual eyes, especially prophetic eyes, you see that there is a very dark and evil thing because the Christians, and I've seen Christians being attacked for just saying the name Jesus. And then people in the streets are, frothing at the mouth, screaming at them. I just watched a video of a young guy who went into Portland where everyone's protesting and all that's going on, whatever's going on there. And he just had a Yeshua t-shirt on and he was walking around with a sign. Shame he had his little mask on too. And he wasn't bothering anybody. He wasn't being aggressive. He wasn't being rude. And the way they came after him, I could see spiritually. I'm seeing this is a spirit. There's no reason for them because he was walking away and they kept going after him and shouting at him. And he said, "I'm walking away from you." And so that goes back to what you were saying in the beginning about the burden. Yes. That this is the time as Christians, and this is the thing that I keep feeling, and you feeling it, we all feel, and I know anyone watching, our Christian brothers and sisters, you watching, you understand what we're seeing, and I'm getting your emails and your messages, and so people are seeing what we're seeing, and so now is the question, what do we do? Yeah. How do we as Christians handle that? Because as Christians, this has got to be our number one goal here is how do we as Christians handle it? Forget everything else, whether you're a man or a woman and all the categories they want to try to put you in, whatever box they want to put you in, and say, oh, you're all the same because you this, or you're all the same because you that. And there's the loss of the individual. And that's such an important thing also. And that goes back to the communism thing, which I won't go all into that. But so true what you said about the donkey. It's carrying another's burden. The time has come then for us to carry this burden. And how do we do that? Like in a day-to-day situation, how do we do? I know we can pray. I know that we can. There's things that we can do to make a difference individually, but
Yes.
there is a need for the church to come together.
There
Like
is-
you said, not bicker amongst each other over theological debates, and rather in this time also not allow fear to control us. And fear isn't just fear of, for instance, COVID-19. Fear can also be of rejection, being shamed. And my father spoke about a religious spirit, often spoke about the religious spirit.
He
The
would
religious,
know. He encountered it.
oh yes, but the religious spirit is not confined to religion.
No.
A religious spirit is a way of control and shame and fear. And this has been used in the church in history, which has given not Jesus, but Christianity a bad name in some circles, and for legitimate reasons at some times. And I remember somebody was challenging, I forget who it was a famous person that doesn't believe is not a Christian, doesn't get the Christian message and doesn't believe in Jesus. But his experience was only with sort of an extremist group that were corrupt, probably. And so the person that he was interviewing said to him, but you are judging those people. You're not actually looking at the message of Jesus Christ. And you're not judging that. And that's what you need to look at. Don't look at what people are doing in the name of something, because human beings are flawed and you can't use it. So, but that religious spirit is what we're seeing, because there's a lot of what is become popular, the virtue signaling.
Yes.
The virtue signaling is, if you were to go back in time to church, the people who were so holy that had their finger of judgment pointed at everybody else, but probably had some pretty bad sins in their own closet. And we've seen a lot of that over the years, of course, because we're not perfect. And the beautiful thing about Christianity is there is redemption and forgiveness when you ask for it and recognize it. And if you're willing to change your evil ways, whatever you're doing that's hurting you or others, if you're willing to change that, that is at the core of Christianity, is that you can be redeemed and forgiven. And with this, I'm seeing there is no redemption, there is no forgiveness. You're looking at people who are going back to people's social media, whatever social media platform they're on, going back decades, and then finding things, and then now they must be judged on it, and then they've got to be cancelled. Now you're getting cancelled. So it's strange, very strange time we're in. It's not probably the way people have expected it, but it never has been the way we expected it. Even when Jesus came, it wasn't the way they expected.
Totally.
So what I'm seeing is not only very dark, I feel it, this darkness underneath that's beyond probably what the average person could even stomach. And then this demonic thing that has taken hold. It's also accompanied by this religious spirit, which is it's a very frustrating thing, because then you start to see the hypocrisy, and you think about the witch trials in history, the Salem witch trials and things like that, where nobody's given a chance to defend themselves. Who knows what the truth is? Oh, it's just decided. Judge, jury, executioner, finished. And sometimes, again, forgetting the individual, saying, oh, well, you in this box, so you act like this, so you do this, so that's what you are. And if you divert from that, then you canceled.
Yeah.
Then you're a big problem. And this is a very dangerous thing. So for me as a Christian, I'm asking God, what do we do?
Yeah.
How do we do this? That's where we're at. How we want to carry this burden. How are we going to do it? Because it's like we've got the governments of the world. Like this is like my dad prophesied, giants. These are giants. So we have to take on then the spirit of David, to be fearless, to not worry about, and the faith as well, because without fear, you what's the scripture verse? Without fear,
without faith, it is impossible to please God.
Thank you. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. If you're fearful, you have no faith. And that was when he said that, because my cousin had said that to me earlier. it really rang a bell with me because it's true. It's so true. And right now, in almost every area of life, we are being forced to be afraid. Yeah. Afraid. Stay at home. Stay in. Keep everything in. And it reminds me of the story of the 4 lepers and the city. Mm-hmm. And they walled themselves in, and there they were eating pigeon poop and eating their own children.
Yes, they were.
And my father prophesied, February 22nd, 2014. He said, the hearts of once compassionate women have cooked their own children. No longer will your children be your food. And I'm not going to say anything more about that, of what I've discovered on this broadcast, but he was so right. And God was showing us something very serious that needs to be taken care of. And this needs to be taken care of not only in the physical realm, but on the spiritual level first.
Yeah.
And so that's my...
Yeah. I think what you're saying too is, fear is kind of what we're looking at. So fear is the reason that so many things have happened. And the thing about fear is sometimes there is a rational reason to feel it.
Yeah.
Not all fear is irrational.
Exactly.
Some fear is perfectly rational.
Fear of God.
But even, other things, you can be fearful of certain things. I mean, we grew up in Durban, there's black mambas lurking around. Yeah. If you see a black mamba, you have legitimate reason to feel fear. But, some fears in life are rational, but faith is the antidote to fear. Faith is being sure of what we hope for, certain of what we do not see, not basing what we do on our experience or even on what we see around us, but basing it on the character and person of God. And we find out who he is through the word.
Yes.
So you're speaking about this, what is it that we as Christians do? Firstly, on a practical level, you vote. On a practical level, you go and you vote. I wish I could vote. I wish I could. And I'm really praying that one day soon I will have that green card and I will go skipping and hopping and screeching my head off to go and vote with absolute
delight.
You can't
vote with a green card.
Can't you?
No.
When it happens, when I become a citizen, I shall go and vote with much delight and many flags.
It's worth it.
Yes.
Because when you get that citizenship, and like my dad said, he and my mom dressed up when they went to go and do the whole ceremony, that they dressed up so nicely. And everybody else was dressed casually, but they were so proud because it had taken so long. And there's something to say for working hard towards something and then accomplishing something or overcoming something. Yeah. And that seems to be being lost in the middle of this too in our society, is this idea that, I just deserve to have everything.
But also what we're seeing is the fruit of a very long systemic root system that has been there for decades now. And it's all fighting this because at the end of the day, the Constitution was founded on principles found in this book.
Right.
This was founded on a lot of this. And so there's been a plan and a strategy of the enemy to remove both of these from the education system. And a lot of what we're seeing now is the fruit of that. But as Christians, practically, what do? We have to fight from a place of faith, not fear. And when I say fight, I don't mean Facebook fight. It doesn't get us anywhere. Fist or Facebook fighting doesn't really get us anywhere. No. So on a practical level, we can vote. On a practical level, Brigitte Gabriel is a woman that I love and admire. She has a grassroots organization called Act for America, and she was a Lebanese Coptic Christian who was rescued by the IDF because of Hezbollah, who killed a bunch of her family. So they were terrorizing Lebanon. She was rescued by Israel, is now a full-fledged American citizen, and she has this incredible political grassroots movement called Act for America. You can get involved with something like that. You can make sure you're voting. But I think so often we forget that praying is actually where the battle happens. The book of Ezekiel tells us too that God's eyes look to and fro upon the earth, searching for a person that will be able to build a wall on behalf of the people. A wall speaks of defense. It speaks of security. It's a fortress. It's what keeps the good in and the bad out. There has to be something within us as Christians that are prepared to maybe do these things without a platform, without a stage. So practically vote, get involved, do whatever it is that you want to do. But on a spiritual level, I think so often we can talk about prayer. We can, put up scriptures about prayer. We can think about it, but at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, am I praying?
Yeah.
And
That is the question.
that is the question. And I think that is where there's obviously great power in unity, which is why the devil is working so hard to divide the church and fighting about theological issues that really aren't actually very important right now, instead of uniting and saying, okay, we have to surround and defend this country.
Yes.
That's what needs to happen, is that Christians have to rise up. The fire of God has to come in, and there has to be a rising up of the body of Christ, this army of God around not just America, around the world.
Around the world.
And America and Israel need our prayers. But you know what? There's also terrible things happening in other places in the world that get no airtime. In Libya, there are slaves being sold today. You know, child trafficking is one of the biggest issues in the world today, but it hardly gets any attention. So often because people with power and money are involved, and it gets suppressed because people with power and money own the mainstream media, which is why everybody's having a little bit of a freak out about good old Ghislaine being arrested.
It's actually Ghislaine.
Ghislaine, there we are. Ghislaine. Everybody's having a little bit of a freak out about her.
Ghislaine's talking, I think.
I think so too. And so, I mean, that'll, we'll see where that goes. But the point is that, so often it's the money, the power that controls these things. But at the end of the day, we as Christians have to be aware of some unchanging principles. The one is that God is the same, yesterday, today, and forever. The book of Hebrews tells us that. The second is that the just shall live by faith. It is with faith, that is how we please God. Faith is what we have to be rooted in. And the thing that I've been thinking about a lot in terms of faith is that it's not, sometimes we can think about things in terms of personality. I have friends that are very bubbly. You met her, Crystal. Yes. One of my best friends growing up, that girl is unbelievable. I have seen her go through some of the hardest times, and no matter what, she's just stoked. I am the opposite. The tired I get, I know I get negative and critical and cynical and mark. It's not good. But my personality might be like, But the thing is, faith isn't optimist or pessimist. Faith is completely realist. You see the obstacle, but you know God's bigger.
Yeah.
You see, you're aware, but faith knows God is bigger than this, and it's because of knowing who He is. So that's how we combat this. We combat faith. We combat fear with faith, and on a practical level, we have to pray, but we also can't be people that don't ever speak out for truth, that don't ever stand up, that are
the silent majority needs to stop being silent, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of speaking the truth.
What did your father prophesy about a war?
Father said, there is a nation itching for a new kind of war with America. And I think that this is it.
Yes.
And just the very fact that my mother and father adopted 5 children from China. Because when my dad went to China, we've had this on Prophetic Rewind, but it's been a while. When my father went to China with my mother to adopt the children, I think it was the first time they were going. I'm not sure if it's the first or when they went to get Matt and Kimby, but believe it was the first time. Pastor Bob Cathers, who's a dear friend and part of our ministry, and I've known him my whole life. It's a wonderful, wonderful church in Simi Valley and Northridge. And my dad did some great meetings at his church in the 80s and 90s, and just when it was small, and it was just such a lovely time. But Bob Cathers said to my father, not just what you say is prophetic, but what you do is prophetic. And the fact that you're going to China, there's something prophetic about this. Yeah. And now look at what we're seeing. And my father's gone on to heaven. But what he did, it wasn't just the life of a prophet isn't just when he says, "Thus says the Lord."
Yeah.
I noticed that with my father. You could hear it in the music, in the worship. Then it would come out in words when he would prophesy. But also, where did he go? I keep looking back. And this is for my Codebreakers people, so you can email me at codebreakers@houseofdestiny.org if you have any information for me. I get it. I get your emails all the time. But if you want to share anything with me, please do. Because he where did he go? He went on quite a few trips before he got sick. It was like he was almost packing them in.
A lot of it was Israel.
It was Israel. It was France. It was England.
It's China.
China.
He did the Ukraine.
Ukraine was 2014, but look at where he went. So this is something I'm kind of doing right now, is looking at places he went. And what we've been doing lately is Chicago. He did 2 nights in Chicago, and because they were such long nights, and I didn't want anyone to miss a thing on Prophetic Rewind, which, by the way, is at kim.tv every Monday. Or you can just go to the House of Destiny website, click the watch, and you can go to Israel Update, or you can go to Prophetic Rewind. But I have had Chicago on my heart, not just because I knew before about how many shootings, but now there's a lot going on in Chicago.
Crazy.
But God brought me that broadcast before it started going really bad in Chicago. And I have felt such a need to focus on that region. And when I looked at, and you must go back and watch it. We've done 3 parts. We're now at the 4th.
This past week was the fourth.
But go and look at Prophetic Rewind and go back and watch them, because those 2 nights in Chicago, he actually did. It was a Rock the Flock conference. He did with Mark Sharona, Prophet Mark Sharona, our dear friend who we love, and Mark was doing the morning, and my dad was doing the evenings, and how prophetic it was. It wasn't just like, oh, he gave a prophecy, now we can look at the prophecy. Engage in that entire meeting, and you see that God sent him to that region. God sent him to Detroit. What does Detroit look like right now? God was sending him to break the power of certain things under the anointing that was given to him in his life. So I have been going back and looking at these places. Okay, he went there, he went here, he went there. Look how prophetic it was, just that God sent him there, because he would just wake up and say, God says I need to go here, I'm going. And he would go. I mean, how many times did he wake you up in the middle of the night?
4 a.m. was his favorite time. But I just want to read a couple verses of scripture and then pray. Okay. This is Psalm 116. I love the Lord, for he heard my voice. He heard my cry for mercy. Because he turned his ear to me, I will call on him as long as I live. The cords of death entangled me. The anguish of the grave came upon me. I was overcome by trouble and sorrow. I think a lot of people can relate to that right now. Yes. I was overcome by trouble and sorrow. Then I called on the name of the Lord. O Lord, save me. The Lord is gracious and righteous. Our God is full of compassion. The Lord protects the simple-hearted. When I was in great need, he saved me. And that is what we're trusting God for your life. It's what we trust in God for our families, for your families, for the nation of America, the nation of Israel, and indeed the nations around the world. We've been praying for our home country of South Africa as well. There's a lot of chaos going on in there. But at the end of the day, our hope is in who God is. That is where our hope is found. And so whatever it is, because of the situation we are in, the chaos surrounding life, if you're struggling with anxiety or hopelessness, or even if you felt like you are kind of almost quivering in your heart in fear, I just want to pray and trust God that he will give you what only he can. It's not something that can come from us. So I'm going to pray and trust God that his peace would come in to your home or wherever it is that you're watching this from. So Father, I thank you that you are gracious and compassionate. And God, I thank you that every person who has struggled, every person watching, whether they felt afflicted with fear, whether all the things that are coming in from media screens, where there's fear that just can come in and take root in our heart, whatever it is that they're struggling with, if it's anxiety, if it's isolation, if it's loneliness. I just know so many people feel such loneliness. God, I pray that you would let them know that you are there. You are our ever-present help in times of trouble, and you are close to us, and you are the one who saves us. So, Father, I thank you that our lives are in your hand. I thank you that your word is very clear, that your purposes stand firm, and nobody can come in and thwart those purposes. So I pray, God, that where there has been fear, you would replace it with faith. Yes. I pray that where there's been hopelessness, you would come and breathe your life and your hope in. I pray that where there's been isolation, every person would know that Jesus is the friend that sticks closer than a brother. And in all the chaos and in the confusion and in feeling sometimes like we're in a raging torrent, not knowing which way is up or down, I pray that the true peace, the full shalom of who you are, would come in and displace everything that would stand in opposition to that. And God, I pray too for every person out there who knows that they're to carry that burden of prayer, that the same way that Jesus said, come to me because my yoke is easy and my burden is light, I pray that that burden we would take upon ourselves, but that it would be light because we're carrying it in Jesus. And I thank you for these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Christy.
Amen.
Thank you all, everybody, for joining us today. I think it was a really great, just a little bit of time we wanted to take to kind of hone in on a few things, and just also remind you that we're always here for you, and we are united as Christians, and you know, we're gonna face this head on. We will fight this battle on our knees, and we will not allow fear to overcome and control us, because we are going to be full of faith. We are full of faith.
We are full of faith.
And with that, we'll leave you, and we will see you Wednesday.
Yes.
Don't miss Prophetic Rewind on Monday. Also, don't miss Israel Update on Friday at israelupdate.org. And you'll also see that we have Destiny Worship up now and Destiny Kids on YouTube. And so make sure you check out everything we're doing at the network. We're growing it through all of the things that are happening. God has sustained us, and we're in this together. And it's such a beautiful thing, even though everything may seem so frightening and so terrible. I just think everything is beautiful in its time. And so let's also try to find the beautiful moments as we go through this, and what can we learn, and take advantage of being able to have time with your families and spend that time together, and find the positives as well, because at the end, we already know God wins, and we're on God's side. And so I think we'll leave you with that. And we love you, and we will see you soon.
God loves you so much, and guess what? We do too, because He lives in our hearts. We want to hear from you. You can email us at hope@houseofdestiny.org, and be sure also to tuck in a testimony when you have opportunity. God is great. He's doing a wonderful work, and we're excited about it.
Thank you for watching the House of Destiny's YouTube channel. Please subscribe to get all of our latest content. This video was brought to you by all of our generous supporters. If you'd like to give, click the link in the description. We have new episodes every week, so stay tuned, and remember, you're somewhere in the future and you look much better than you look right now.